destroyed by drugs. That is how the man who invented hip-hop DJing almost ended his life. But the story gets worse. In 2023, the feud between Grandmaster Flash and Melle exploded again. Eminem dropped a diss track, calling Melle a juice head while praising Flash, old wounds that never healed. Two halves of the greatest musical partnership in hip-hop history, still tearing each other down decades later. This is not just about drugs or beef. This is about a man who built the castle of hip-hop with his bare hands and then got evicted when the money came. If you want this story to reach more people, hit the hype feature and give this video some hype while we get into what really happened. Joseph Sadler is Grandmaster Flash. He is the first DJ inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. He won the Polar Music Prize. His name is said with respect by everyone from Dr. Dre to Eminem. But under all that glory is a tragedy. He watched the culture he built conquer the world while he was locked out of the money and locked out of credit. Then he nearly destroyed himself with addiction while his old group performed anti-drug songs using his name without him. In the mid-1970s, the South Bronx was a wasteland. Burning buildings, economic collapse. The government called it benign neglect. In that rubble, Joseph Sadler treated the turntable like a science experiment. DJ Kool Herc gets credit for starting hip-hop by isolating the break in a song, but Flash took it further. He developed the quick mix theory. It is still the standard for DJs around the world today. Flash did not stumble into this. He was obsessed. He created clock theory, marking records with crayons and paint so he could see exactly where a drum break started. He could loop 10 seconds forever without missing a beat. He invented torque theory, studying how the needle dragged on vinyl to perfect the slip cue method. The DJ booth became a lab. The party became a performance. By 1978, Grandmaster Flash was the king of New York underground hip-hop. He played to thousands at places like the Audubon Ballroom. His technical skills were unmatched. Other DJs watched him and could not figure out how he did it. He was that far ahead of everyone else. Back then, the DJ was the boss. The DJ was the star. MCs were hired help. Their job was to hype the crowd and make the DJ looks good. Flash put together the Furious Five: Cowboy, Melle, Kid Creole, Scorpio, and Raheem. They were the most disciplined crew in the game. They existed to show off his quick mix skills. Flash was the employer. The MCs worked for him. That was the structure of early hip-hop. But here is where the trap was set. Flash perfected an art based on live shows and playing other people's records. But the music industry runs on copyright, songwriting, and singers. There is no copyright for cutting a record. You cannot own the act of manipulating vinyl. When hip-hop moved from the park to the studio, the skills that made Flash a legend became worthless. The voices of his MCs became the product. The turntable genius became a liability. Then Sylvia Robinson entered the picture. She was a former R&B singer. Her label, All Platinum Records, was going bankrupt. She saw hip-hop as a way to save herself. After the Sugar Hill Gang had a surprise hit with Rapper's Delight, she wanted the real kings of the Bronx. She wanted Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. The contract they signed in 1980 is used today as an example of how to trap artists. Sylvia and her husband, Joe Robinson, made the deal to create total control. The group got very low royalty rates. That was normal for new acts, but robbery for a group with a huge local fan base. The worst part was cross-collateralization. The label treated studio time, travel, and costumes as loans. Those costs will be paid back from the group's royalties. Sylvia owned the studio. She owned the publishing company. She paid herself with their money while they went into debt. The scam was perfect. Every dollar the group earned went back to Sylvia in some form. The group toured the world. They opened for The Clash. They packed stadiums. They were international stars, but their checks stayed small. They were stars on stage and broke at home. That pressure built up. Flash was the genius with the turntables, but the label saw him as secondary to the rappers. The refusal to pay him what he deserved set up the explosion to come. Flash could see what was happening. His art was being devalued. His contributions were being ignored. The label wanted voices, not scratching. In 1981, Flash released The Adventures of Grandmaster Flash on the Wheels of Steel. It is the only true record of his talent On Sugar Hill, he used 3 turntables live, cutting between Chic, Queen, and Blondie. It was a masterpiece. It was the first record to use scratching as the main instrument, but it was a niche success. Sylvia Robinson learned a lesson. White America and radio wanted songs with choruses and verses. They did not want scratching. That decision would ruin Flash. His moment to shine on record was treated as a novelty. The writing was on the wall. Then came The Message. It is called the greatest hip hop song ever made. The moment hip hop became about more than parties. For Grandmaster Flash, it was the beginning of his erasure. The irony is perfect. Grandmaster Flash does not appear on The Message. The song was written by Ed Duke, Booty Fletcher, and Melle. When Sylvia played the demo for the group, they hated it. Flash and the Furious Five were party rockers. Their brand was fun, girls, and escape. A slow, dark song about the ghetto felt wrong. Flash said no. He thought it would kill their vibe at the disco. He was protecting what he thought was their identity. Sylvia ignored him. She recorded it anyway with only Melle's voice and Duke Booty's beat. Then she released it under the name Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. She used the brand Flash had built for a decade to sell a song he opposed and did not perform on. Flash had no control. The label owned the name. When The Message became a global hit, everything changed. Sylvia's plan worked. The MC was the product. The DJ was furniture. Critics started calling Melle the leader. The rapper was the genius now. Flash was irrelevant. Journalists who did not know the history of the group assumed Melle was the mastermind. Flash became an afterthought in his own group. He watched the genre he invented move away from what he did best. He was no longer needed. The success of The Message proved that hip-hop could work without the DJ being the star. By 1983, the gap between fame and money became too much. The Message sold millions. The group played stadiums, but their checks barely paid rent. The dissonance was insane. Flash took a risk. He filed a $5 million lawsuit against Sugar Hill Records. He claimed unpaid royalties, breach of contract, and hid in accounting. He said Sylvia Robinson had stolen from them for years, using their lack of lawyers against them during the signing. The lawsuit was brave. It also destroyed the Furious Five. The label pressure and Melle's new fame split the group into two sides. The loyalists stayed with Sugar Hill, Melle, Scorpio, and Cowboy. They thought Sylvia was the source of the hits, despite the theft. They renamed themselves Grandmaster Melle and the Furious Five. They stole Flash's title. It caused confusion in the market. The rebels left the label. Flash, Raheem, and Kid Creole. They signed with Elektra Records eventually. Flash kept the name, but lost the voice of the hits. The split was a disaster. Melle had the Sugar Hill machine and the momentum from The Message. Flash had the name, but no lead rapper. No one knew who to follow. The original group's power was gone. Flash was suing for money from the same system that was erasing him. The lawsuit dragged on for years. The legal costs piled up. The mid-1980s were the dark years. Flash's career collapsed. Crack cocaine flooded New York City. The timing created a nightmare. Flash had no group. His money was stuck in court. His identity was in crisis. He developed a bad addiction to freebase cocaine. In interviews in his memoir, Flash called this time a walking depression. The man known for extreme discipline, marking records with tiny precision, lost control of his own life. His obsession with turntables was replaced by drugs. The structure that held him together fell apart. Flash's story is not a romantic struggle. It was brutal. His money went to the lawsuit and his addiction. He lost his home. The inventor of quick mix theory slept in cars. He crashed on couches. He avoided the streets where his name was painted like he was a god. The loss was not just about money. It was about status. He was a king in exile in his own kingdom. The mental damage of being a legend who could not afford a place to live was made worse by what his old group was doing. People on the street recognized him, but he had nowhere to go. The cruelest part is White Lines. The song White Lines, Don't Do It, came out in 1983. It was released by Melle. Sometimes it was credited to Grandmaster and Melle. It became a huge hit warning people about cocaine addiction. The lyrics described the trap Flash was falling into. Here is the torture. While Melle performed this anti-drug anthem to sold-out crowds, Grandmaster Flash was living the exact nightmare the song described. The public thought Flash was part of White Lines. He was not on the record. He did not write it. He did not make money from it. But his brand was tied to an anti-drug message while he was addicted to the drug. That is not just irony. That is a special kind of hell. Being the face of a message you are failing to live up to while being cut out of the profits is psychological torture. The song preached one thing while Flash lived the opposite. The feud between Flash and Melle never ended. Through the 1990s and 2000s, it stayed cold and bitter. Melle is a big guy and loud. He said publicly that Flash was a fraud who did not do anything on the hits. He argued that since Flash did not rap or produce the message, his fame was fake. Melle wanted full credit for the success. Flash fought back. He trademarked the name Grandmaster Flash. Legally, Melle could not use it. The voice of the hits could not use the name. The public knew. That made Melle angrier. The bitterness grew for decades. The feud exploded again in 2023. Melle got into a controversy with Eminem. Melle made comments about Eminem that backfired. Eminem dropped a diss track. He called Melle a juice head, hinting at steroid use. He praised Flash. It drove the wedge deeper. Two men who created one of the greatest acts in music history spent decades destroying each other instead of building together. The tragedy is that they could have been united legends. For almost 40 years, the surviving members of the Furious Five fought to get their money back from the Robinson estate. Sylvia Robinson died in 2011, but the legal system she built kept fighting. The lawyers continued the war even after she was gone. It was not until July 2022 that a settlement happened, 40 years after the 1983 lawsuit. Raheem announced the artists got back royalties. They also got the rights to their writers and publishing money going forward. People called it a victory, but it shows the tragedy clearly. The best earning years were gone. The 1980s, the 1990s hip-hop boom, the era of physical sales and movie licensing, all of it passed while they fought in court. The money they got back was a tiny piece of what was generated. They won the war, but lost decades of their lives. The settlement was justice delayed to the point of being almost meaningless. Today, Grandmaster Flash is sober. He is respected around the world. He tours as an elder statesman. He lectures about the science of the turntable. Universities invite him to speak. He is treated like royalty at hip-hop events, but the damage is permanent. The Furious Five almost never performs together. The friendship formed in Bronx parks is destroyed forever. The brotherhood that once dominated New York is broken beyond repair. Cowboy, the spirit of the group and the man who came up with the term hip-hop, died in 1989. He was 28 years old. He was broke and addicted, a direct victim of the group falling apart and the harsh world they lived in. His death is a symbol of what the industry did to them all. Flash built hip-hop DJing from nothing. He invented the tools and techniques that defined the culture. But when hip-hop became a business, he was pushed out. His life shows what happens to pioneers. He was first, so he had no map for the predatory record industry. Sugar Hill exploited him. The message erased him. The drug epidemic almost killed him. The sadness is in the lost years. He spent decades fighting lawyers and fighting addiction instead of making music. He survived. He got sober. He earned respect in history. But the man who taught the world how to control time on a turntable could never get back the time stolen from him.